Everything starts with a choice. For PPS, that choice was clear: to provide graduate professionals with support to create, protect, and accelerate their wealth. Because when graduate professionals support one another, progress multiplies. And together, those choices added up to a record-breaking 6.88 billion rand in profit share allocated to our members with qualifying life risk products for 2025.
At PPS, we know the whole adds up to more than the sum of its parts. Visit pps.co.za to see how it adds up for you. PPS, success is better shared. PPS is a licensed life insurer controlling company and authorized FSP. Profit share allocations depend on PPS's operating and investment performance.
Siyadumuza nje manje, yazi msakaza ngibonga.
Around sports worldwide.
MSW.
Why?
It's multicast, Clara. You know the story.
When excuses run out.
Such behavior can only be rooted out by VAR, Rob.
The truth clocks in.
It's tough. It's tough.
Hashtag MSW.
Now, there's been a debate over technology in football that has reached boiling point. The championship clubs have slammed the door shut on video reviews. Remember my views about, VAR, etc. But yeah, the championship clubs have slammed that door on, all these video reviews, rejecting football video support for next season. While the managers, though, are pleading for fairness. The fear of stoppages and also spiraling costs that has silenced the idea. Now, VAR does thrive in Europe's second divisions, but in England's championship, tradition wins out, to unpack the fallout and also what it means for the game. I'm joined by international football journalist Joe Krishnan, who is back home in Johannesburg, but glad that he is around so that we can get a deeper understanding of this. Joe, it's been a while, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. I'll always drop everything for you, Rob.
Am I reading this correctly? They don't want your video technology and all of these expensive technological things that are happening globally?
I think that the main thing with the rejection of this is it feels like a vote for the fans, which I think is important. I think the mood around technology in football, especially VAR, it feels like it's really shifted over the last couple of years. I mean, I remember when VAR was first implemented, I was at the World Cup in 2018, and it was fast and it was correct and it was good and it was smooth, and it feels like we're so far away from that now with the way that things have gone and the weights that are there. And I think that in championship football, so much of the championship in particular is about the speed of it, the pressure, the intensity, the spur of the moment stuff. And I think that it's actually, for me, a really big thing that these clubs have said no to it, because the championship football is a fantastic product, and I think that VAR, or the football video support, as they were going to call it, I think it would have slowed it down. I think it would have ruined the product, if I'm honest.
But we've also heard, Joe, managers like Philippe Clement as well as Gerhard Struber, they've argued that VAR brings fairness, but how much weight did their options and opinions carry in this debate?
Well, obviously, this is it goes to a vote in the end, and I think that the argument is between fairness and between whether it's actually ruining the game that we love. And I think that given the experience that we've had with VAR in recent years, especially in England, and I think that's been a big part of it. We've seen VAR work better in different countries and in different places, but the way that it's been bemoaned in the Premier League and the way that it's worked in the Premier League has just really turned people off to it. And yeah, look, without VAR, things are going to get, they're going to be got wrong, but things are still getting wrong, getting made, wrong decisions are still getting made with VAR. And it feels like they've just decided that they don't want fans in championship grounds around the country having to deal with that. Plus, as you mentioned before, there's the financial cost of that. And, a lot of these championship clubs, especially the guys that come up from League One, for instance, it's, these things add up, and it's difficult, in a league like the championship, where so much money is being thrown at the golden goose of the Premier League. And, we're going to just have to look at the championship table this year. Sheffield Wednesday getting relegated on minus, Brommer probably getting minus points, Leicester on minus points. the Championship is not a sustainable league at the moment, and something like VAR or this review system, it just adds another cost onto the plate of these football clubs.
What's your personal take, though? Because, I've never hidden from the public and expressed myself in terms of me not being a big VAR fan. I've always said that in football, the one thing that really makes sense for me is goal line technology. And if you have goal line technology, because that's a big, big call, that's got nothing to do with anything that is sophisticated or debatable, etc. It's just whether a ball went over the line and all of the ball went over the line or not. But when Joe Krishnan absorbs all of this, you've seen how VAR has worked and not worked in certain leagues or tournaments or World Cups or Champions Leagues, etc. Do you think that they've got a point here?
Yeah, I'm completely with you on goal line technology. I think it's worked brilliantly well. I think it's been a really effective tool and has added real value to the game. I agree with VAR. I agree with the need for VAR. I just think it needs to be used properly, and I think that's what we've lacked. The implementation of it, right? I continue to grow against VAR, just because the game that we know and love for decades is being changed to the point where fans will celebrate a goal and then have to wait 5 minutes to find out if that goal counts or not. And I think if we were able to get a VAR that was quick, correct, then it would be a massive asset to the game. I just think we're just not there at the moment.
When you look at the likes of Spain and Italy, Germany, the second tier, Joe, they use VAR. So what does England risk by standing apart?
It's difficult to say, really. I'm not sure they risk anything. I think one thing they do risk is the fact that there are going to be big decisions that go against clubs in big games, and we've got the playoffs coming up in a few weeks' time, and there could be a bad decision in the playoff that cost the team a spot in the Premier League, and that decision means hundreds of millions of pounds. That is something that you lack, but I think that if fans can get to grips with the fact that human error is part, as fans a long time, that's a big deal. If you can get past that, then that's half the battle. I think the reason we have VAR is because on the flip side of that, there's a lot of fans that can't deal with that and feel like all the decisions should be right. But I think it goes back to you look at utilised in these leagues. And maybe it's because I don't see it so much, but it doesn't feel like we ever have, looking at things on social media and things like that, it doesn't feel like we ever have the same sort of controversy in these leagues. And maybe they're just better at it.
Yeah, I think as part of the debate, though, I was going to take it in a slightly different approach here, because I saw something earlier, Joe, from the BBC and BBC Sport and how they were reporting on this issue. And they were suggesting that the idea is closed for now. So do you see any change, though, any chance of revival, or is the championship kind of destined to remain VAR-free?
I think for the time being, you look at these things, because it's done on a vote and they'll know exactly which way the vote went. I don't think it's the sort of thing that they're going to review in a year's time. It might be something we review again in 5, or if something drastic happens, then that might change things. But I do think that they, in fairness, are speaking for the bulk of Championship football fans. And I think as long as that remains the case, there won't be a clamoring to have that changed. And I think with a lot of managers and club bosses and stuff like that, they don't really want to see a bad version of VAR, or a VAR light, so to speak, implemented into the game.
Yeah, but so I was going to end it off and just say that given all that we've spoken about and why this rejection is being brought to the table, I mean, does that kind of reflect a wider resistance to technology in football, or is it just a unique one for the championship, or the championship's culture and the economics?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I think there is I think we do have a pushback now. I think from from general football fans against technology in football because of how badly it's been used. But I think, there's not really a football pyramid in the world like England's where, you look at like a Wrexham, for instance. A few years ago, they were playing in the National League, and now they're, in the Championship pushing for the Premier League. And it's all well and good when you've effectively got two tiers or one tier in some cases who are the be-all and end-all of that country's football. Whereas in England, you've got four leagues in the professional game, and then you've got lots of other teams that made underneath it. So when decisions are made, they're not just made for the league that they're in. There is a wider picture taken into account, and I think that when you look at the teams that are coming up from League One, they will look at the idea of install VAR and having to install all that technology and see it as just an added cost that is, maybe just not feasible for them. And so I'd like to think that the decision has been made for the clubs, but also, as I said, with fans' views in mind, because it really does feel like this is a decision that's been made with I suppose fans' enjoyment of football games at the forefront.
Yeah, got 2 minutes to squeeze in something I know you love very well, which is the Soweto Derby coming back home, and you've been following, I'm sure, very, very closely. What's your take? I mean, very, very tight at the top. Sundown's busy. They want to win the second star this side. They also want to break a record of league titles. Yeah,
look, the Soweto Derby, I'll shout it from whoever wants to listen about how good that game is. I think it's one of the most incredible games of football that takes place around the world. I've been lucky to watch a lot of football in a lot of places, and the Soweto Derby is one that still gives me goosebumps every time I go. I think it's going to be interesting because obviously Pirates have been so good to watch. I know they've dropped down the table a little bit because they've dropped points in games they probably shouldn't have done, but they've been, especially up front and from an attacking perspective, they've been electric. So I think given struggles and the way that Pirates have handled matters, I think my money's on the Buccaneers again for this one.
What gives them the edge, though? Do you think if they take the Soweto Derby, then Sundowns have got this, 7 games in 21 days or something like that? It's going to be very difficult for them to keep the momentum. They've got to play Polokwane City, home and away still, those two very dangerous games. Do you see them pipping the league?
Short answer, no. I think Sundowns for me that they're just too strong, and I think if you talk about a schedule and what they're dealing with, and I think if you were to put any other team in that situation, you would say that they are almost certainly going to struggle, almost certainly going to drop points. But with what Sundowns have got in their locker, the depth that they've got, the quality that they've got, I do think Pirates are going to push it all the way. I just can't see. I can't see Sundowns slipping up enough.
All right, you're going to be at the Derby?
No, I'll be watching my rubbish football team get relegated again. But yeah, no, I will definitely be partaking in the derbies at some point next season.
All right, Joe Krishnan, as always, good to hear your voice again, my friend. Thank you very, very much indeed. International journalist Joe Krishnan in Joburg joining us right here on #MSW. This has been Marama Sports Worldwide, proudly brought to you by Hollywood Bets.
The thrill, the drama, the action. Let the game begin. Marama Sports Worldwide on 947, Vuma FM and Rise FM. Powered by Hollywood Bets.